You are listening to the Marc Guzman Podcast Experience. On this episode of Real Realtors, we have Davide Pio with BCRE Real Estate, who's a commercial broker. We previously had him on the podcast, so definitely check out his episode. And we also have a special guest, Greg McDaniel, who's a host of Real Estate Uncensored. And today we get into discussing Costa-Hawkins Act, marketing tips, and Facebook Live for real estate agents. And we also talk about Tesla.
Oh, shit.
I hit record and the very first thing you said is, oh, shit.
I have a tendency of doing that, actually.
So that's how we're starting this one off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was any drink at 10:30 in the morning.
And David, why don't you tell us what you brought here?
It's a wine from a winery by the name of Visa Tui, which is one of my favorites. You could do picnics there and everything. Called Angelica, and it's basically dessert wine with brandy and honey. It's like sweet, golden good gumdrops.
Makes you nice and warm inside.
Yes.
That's a heck of a way to start off a Wednesday.
Yeah. Especially at 10:30, right? So Visa Tui is a great winery. I'm a member there, but I never knew they actually had this song. This is really good.
That and their Madeira is good, but that one.
So this reminds me a little bit of Zacapa that Ronald here in my office introduced me to, which is it's a watermelon rum.
Watermelon, mean watermelon.
Huh?
Watermelon.
Guatemalan.
Oh, Guatemalan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Guatemalan.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
I heard watermelon.
I was like, that was.
What the hell's a watermelon?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so it's a great rum. They have it 23, 25 years. They age it just like Scotch does. It's super dangerous though.
Is it better than Cuban rum? Because Cuban rum is terrible.
Yes, it's way better.
Cuban rum's so bad.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed.
Yeah, actually a Cuban introduced me to that one along with Ronald.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'll have to try it sometime.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to introduce my guests here today. We have Davide Pio with BCRE Real Estate, and we have Greg McDaniel with Real Estate Uncensored. And are you still over at J. Rockliff?
Yeah, still over at Rockliff right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so I want to thank you guys for coming here onto the podcast and for an episode of Real Realtors. And so we're going to get right into, well, Greg, so David, we've actually had you on the podcast before, so
Yep.
we know a little bit of your history. And for people listening that don't know, make sure to go check out that podcast. And for Greg, this is your first time here on the podcast.
It is.
And so thanks for coming out. You have a very successful podcast, 50,000 downloads per month. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And it's called Real Estate Uncensored. Where can we listen and watch your podcast?
Well, I appreciate just being on the show, man. It's a pleasure to be here, meeting y'all, hanging out with you guys, drinking with you on a Wednesday morning, like successful real estate agents we are. But you guys can find the Real Estate Uncensored iTunes, Real Estate Uncensored there. You can go to McDanielRealEstateSystems.com. You can download a free book there for scripts, both audio and written out. And you can watch our full episodes there. You can go to YouTube. And then, of course, if you go follow me on Facebook, go to Greg McDaniel on Facebook. I'm the guy pointing at my hat, the one I'm wearing here, which says Real Estate Life. You guys can watch me live when we record it. We record it Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, and then Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific. You can watch it, interact, ask questions, the whole 9 yards there. So you can pretty much find me anywhere, which is a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Makes us all feel like stalkers.
We actually tell people to go stalk us. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, when you have a podcast, video, or any channel, you want people to stalk you.
Yes. Please stalk in the best possible way. Just don't jump out in a trench coat outside of my house.
Yeah.
That kind of stalking is no good.
Okay, now you were a real estate agent. In fact, you are still a real estate
Yeah.
agent. You sell houses. And what made you start this podcast?
So I've been in the business for 18 and a half, going on 19 years. My father's been in it for 46 years, going on 100. I learned from him. I learned from my business partner. I learned from a lot of tremendous coaches around the country as I was growing up. I didn't really ever think about it, how the value that I was getting. And then I started realizing the people that I was around just didn't know what they were doing in the business. And I was tired of dealing with agents that didn't know what they were doing. So I was working with a company called Viral Marketing, and they were producing videos for me and my coach at that time, who's now my co-host, Matt Johnson. he and I had so much fun horsing around on the videos. I said, hey, dude, do you want to do a podcast? And he's like, hell yeah, I want to do a podcast. And so that's where it was born. And so our whole goal behind the podcast was to give all the knowledge that someone would have to pay tens of thousands of dollars for from a coach or a training organization, give it away 100% free. With my connections with the people I've ran with my father and on our team, and with Matt and the company that he runs with, with all the top agents around the country, we brought in a lot of folks that have tremendous value, way more than what Matt and I could bring. And all we want to do is we basically want to be Robin Hood of real estate. We want to take from the rich, give to the poor. When I say poor, I mean the agents who just don't know what to do in this business and where to turn. And there's so much white noise out there. How do you discern what's actual, really good info, what's complete bullshit? And, the people who are just trying to derail you and just give you a path with no strings attached, no fees at the end of it, just to get good knowledge. So it's a labor of love. I just want to give back to the business because I just love our industry. I love our people. Just a lot of people just don't know where to go and don't have the finances to get the truly good coaching that they need to get to that next level.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of bottom feeders too.
Tons.
Yeah.
Tons of douches that are just trying to just take everything from everybody, never giving, always taking. And Matt and I wanted to be the other. We firmly believe that if we give more than we can ever possibly imagine to the industry will give back to us, in some way, shape, or form. But we're not looking for anything in return. We're just looking to give. That's really all we're looking to do.
Yeah.
It's incredible though, dude. I mean, I've seen, and like you're experiencing with this show, people are starting to come back to us now. I have stacks of thank you cards, from people going, hey man, thanks for starting the show because of what you've given to us. Now I'm living the life of my dreams. I'm doing X amount of deals. I'm the number one agent in my area, first year out, so on and so forth. These success stories are coming back, and man, that is worth it in its weight in gold. It's unreal.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because it gets you in front of people you normally wouldn't talk to. Mm-hmm. You bring the community involved, and eventually your name gets out there and business comes back to you. I actually just picked up my first listing a couple weeks ago because of this podcast.
Nice.
Yeah. So
one in El Cerrito?
It works. No. It's actually one in Hercules.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So nice. It works.
It does. This medium of information, content creation is really the new advertising. Park benches, ads on, stale ads, that's still going to be there, but the average person sees, I think, 4,500 advertisements on a daily basis. So we go literally advertisement blind. And so what stands out is, giving content, giving value to the end consumer, if it's an agent or if it's a homeowner or whatever it is, giving them something they can put into their lives to make it better. They will then respond to you because the law of reciprocity kicks in and they want to give back to you because you gave to them. And besides, this is fun as hell. I mean, come on.
It is.
You meet a lot of interesting people, I can imagine.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. There's some, like, I one of the most interesting guests we had on our show was the ex-FBI head international negotiator for hostages. His name is, he's an amazing guy. He came on and he just totally rapped with us and did a show with us. And that guy is like a ninja of negotiations. I mean, I just threw everything at him and I'm like, okay, talk your way out of this situation. And he's like, well, okay, this is what I would do. I'm like, that's genius. I mean, his name is Chris Voss.
Okay.
And he has a great book. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but yeah, look up Chris Voss. I'll pull it up on iTunes here. I'll show you guys what the book is, but it's freaking genius.
Okay. And so, David, you specialize in commercial real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Commercial real estate, not just commercial buildings, but apartment buildings, that sort of thing.
Primarily apartments, yeah.
Yeah. And now you work with international buyers too.
Yeah.
Now, how does that differ on an international scale than what a typical agent deals with?
So if you're going to do international marketing, I actually don't do a lot of marketing. You hear about the people like on, what's the show, $1 Million Listing, that they put out all these ads and stuff. Yeah, no, I don't do that. Even in America, I don't really advertise. I mean, other than a handful of email blasts a year, all my stuff's relationship, mainly because I don't like to market. I'm lazy. And all my clients, here's the thing. I remember sitting down with someone and it was basically at the point where I was going to cut off this relationship with this client because I was just tired of them. I was tired of them trying to use me and then always trying to discount me. Like, no, I won't sell your listing for 4%. No, I won't do 5% and pay for this. No, I'm going to charge you 6%, and then I'm going to charge you $200 an hour, and I'm going to bill you if you keep pissing me off. So, and I think it's because I'm worth it, not because like, ooh, I'm fancy and stuff. It's just because I know so much more than your average person. I literally can tell you right now, I've literally met 2 people in this business that I genuinely feel just know more about everything than I do. I mean, I think I have a good grasp on law. I have a good grasp on taxes. You and I have talked about, things like that. The markets, international, political, syndications, which I know we're going to discuss later. I mean, I just have a really good grasp on that because I'm like one of those people that has to know everything about everything. So all my clients here and abroad, I usually meet them through dumb luck, or I meet them because they tell their friends. If you make someone a couple $1 million in a couple years, they're going to tell everyone else about you. And then if you call them and say, hey, I have a deal you really need to look at, and if you don't buy it, then I will, or I'm going to call the next person on my list, they usually react pretty quickly. And if they don't come up, and if they have unrealistic expectations, then you just stop calling them, and then they kind of feel left out. And I've got multiple clients of this. I have a client that, really good client of mine, he bought 2 deals from me every year for like a 3 or 4 year stretch. The market was starting to turn and get really, was starting to improve. Cap rates were getting suppressed, prices were going up, but so were rents. And I called him on this deal that one of my other clients just couldn't negotiate his price. It was just out of his price range. And I knew the broker selling the property. And I gave this deal on a silver platter to my buyer. And I was like, hey, look, this is for you. This is a 7 cap, which anyone who knows, everything around here sells for like 4s and 5s. So I was like, this is on a silver platter. It's a 7 cap with an upside story behind it. And it's a good building. You need to buy it. And the price is whatever it was, like 1.6, 1.7. And he goes, I want to offer 1.4. And I said, no, there's no, like, we've already done the negotiation. That's why my last guy couldn't get it, because his max was 1.55. The price is, 1.6, 1.7, and that's what it is, period. And he goes, well, I think I could get it better. And I went, cool. Hung up the phone, called my next buyer. They bought it for 1.6 or 1.7 or whatever in the world it was. And now that building's worth 3-ish plus million. And I didn't call that. I called that other buyer one time in a 4-year stretch. And I see him fairly regularly. And he goes, hey, why don't you call me anymore? And I told him, I was like, because it's not 2010 and I don't have anything for you. How is your money doing in the bank? How is your 0.001%? And he was like, well, it's not doing anything. And I was like, yeah, well, the other building you didn't want, the guy, made 40% of his money, plus he's making 7%, 8% on his money every year, let alone with the equity. Oh, and I've also sold all these other buildings in the last 6 years. That's why I don't call you anymore, because you think it's still the recession. It's not. Things have changed. This is how it is. You need to change with it, or I'm going to go to someone else, because you're not my only client. And they recently came back to me about a year ago, and he goes, okay, this is how much I have, plus this one building you sold me, want to 1031 that up into a bigger building. Oh, and I have family coming from India, and they're bringing $2 million to start, and then if they like what you have, they want to bring another 15 to 20 million. So it's dumb luck, but it's also, like I said, you show people how to make money, and a lot of it in a short amount of time, and you under promise, over deliver. They send you their friends, their family, their friends of friends, their family friends, things like that, and the book of business just gets big.
Yeah. Now, Greg, you do a lot of high-end homes, right?
Yeah, we do.
Do you find a lot of sellers to be very difficult in that market compared with other, maybe lower-end homes?
You would think so. They have their own set of demands, each one of them. When it comes to the higher-end homes, they have a certain level of service that they demand of you, and they want to be treated with white gloves. So, personally, in my own business, guys can keep your $5 million homes. I don't want them. I don't need the crown jewel properties. I want properties that sell. But most of the people who are listening to this show, if they're here in California or around the country or around the world, when we say our average price is about $1 million, they choke. Omaha, Nebraska, $450,000, $500,000, you're rolling big. But I mean, if you give me $1 million listings all day long, I'll take those all day, every day, because I know that I can move them just time in and time out every single day. But when it comes to the needs of everyone's still a human being. They put their pants on one leg at a time, and at the end of the day, they want the most amount of money if they're the seller, or they want the least amount of money if they're the buyer, for the purchase price. And you just need to facilitate it. So it's just understanding each one of the clients and what their wants or needs are. That comes into client control in the very beginning, understanding why they're doing this, what's their motivation, then going deep on that motivation and exposing it and exploiting it. Thank you for that one. It must have been the booze when we first started the show.
Oh, you're such a lightweight.
I know, good Lord, 240 pounds of lightweight. But exploiting whatever that issue is and making them feel like they're the king or queen of your business. they'll love you till the cows come home.
Yeah. Okay. And now we had an interesting conversation, David, a while back. You did a convention in China or Beijing, and you went, or maybe you went to the convention, or do you actually hold a booth there?
No, we had a booth.
Okay, so you had a booth there, but there was something that was very impressive. They were selling towns.
They were selling whole cities or chunks of cities. It was crazy. And
but the display model is what.
Yeah, and
right?
I mean, to give you context, I mean, we're in a room that's probably like 12 by 15-ish in a weird octagon angle, but they'd have something like that, like a 10-foot by 12 to 15-foot, 1/20th, 1/30th size display, and they would have buildings that were for sale, like condo units. Because it's funny, I was with a friend, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go to this, bar on top of the thing. It's a 37-story building." I was like, "It's the tall building there," and she goes, "That's tall? That's like a small building in China," because it is like everything's vertical. And what they do is they have little lights for each unit, and when they sell a unit, they turn off the light, and you could actually literally see lights go off as people were buying these units in these buildings. And it would probably be about 20% display of the actual town, and the rest would be the river and the rolling hills and like landscaping. But it's little people walking around, little cars, little vegetation and everything. It was insane, the detail they put in this, because they're literally selling a whole community, a whole city.
That's a trip.
I mean, it was insane. I've never seen anything like that.
And I assume you got business out of that too.
Well, so back then I didn't speak any Chinese, and it was
learning
we
now,
actually
right?
I studied for about 2 years, and I actually took about a year break, so I'm a little rusty. But back then it was our first convention, and I actually didn't have the documents translated correctly, so we did okay. We got like 1 or 2 clients. And I think we could have got a lot more, because we spent so much time explaining it and translating everything, because everything was done improperly. And now that we had seen it, I think we could go back and capitalize a lot more, because there was a competitor out in Berkeley, I believe, that they actually picked up 2 or 3 people that we just couldn't service because we didn't know the culture as well. We didn't know the language as well. We didn't have anybody that spoke Chinese on our team as well, things like that, whereas they were a little more familiar with it. So obviously when you go international, you definitely have to know the cultures and things like that.
Yeah. Now, Greg, what was the conference or convention you went to just recently? I saw Tony Robbins was there, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, I'll pull it up here. My girlfriend, who is actually Chinese, so when you brought the whole speaking Chinese, that would be very helpful in my own personal life. Yeah, it was like something Achievers, American Achievers or something Achievers convention. They throw about 500 conventions a year, and it was Mr. Wonderful was there from the Shark Tank. It was a trip to go to this event. I mean, these guys, it was a big pitch fest for about the big middle of the day, but having Tony there, he's supposed to spend 3 hours with us. He spent 4. He just couldn't get his content condensed enough into only 3 hours. I mean, I was within 10 feet of that guy, 6 feet of the guy. He's a monster of a human. Got chiclets for teeth.
Yeah.
But good dude, man. Super awesome stuff. Gary kept it real. Had a private lunch with him in the VIP area.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, he totally just on point. These guys are very humble, very real, very down to earth. They're not, I mean, they have their personas, but it was intense to learn from people and be around people that have a lot of really good systems. I'd recommend anybody who's going to be doing real estate or doing investment or anything in business, you need to go to at least 1 to 4 events or, seminars or something a year, 1 a quarter. Get out, go meet people, go learn something, go see what the new technology is. I mean, for Inman, it's right here in San Francisco. You go to Tom Ferry, you can go to any of your coaches that you like, or to go to in any motivational speeches, but just get out and go learn.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the best.
It gets you really pumped up. I went to Inman in August here in San Francisco. I was hoping Gary was going to be there. He wasn't, but I saw him last year when he was at Inman, and it was a great speech. I mean, just everything he says just hits home. Mm-hmm. Just, one thing that he talks about all the time is it's not about getting, 1 million views. It's about getting that 1 or 2 views that can change your business, right?
That is exactly what it is. It's it's having that 1,000 raving fans. That book. Joe, you don't need 1 million people loving you. Just get 10, 20, 100, 1,000 people that absolutely have your back no matter what. They will spread the word about you faster than you could ever do.
They'll be your
yourself.
biggest cheerleader. Yeah.
Biggest cheerleader on earth. And just like you were saying, you make someone $1 million, they're going to love you.
Yeah.
And it's just having that expertise. That's why you go out and do the continued education, read, listen to podcasts, go take intelligent people out to lunch, maybe not even in your same industry, just really smart businessmen and women. Go to the event, surround yourself with people that are better than you. It's a 33% rule. Spend 33% of your time with people that are better, 33% of the time that are the same, and 33% of the time that are below you in knowledge in the industry, so you can give back to them. But always be spending time in one of those three arenas. Don't spend all your time in one.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I listened to a podcast where they interview various billionaires, and one of them said, and this was a very good tip, I think, is build a circle of mentors around you that you're always, like about 5 or 6 mentors that you're always constantly assessing, right? And switch out mentors here and there, but they're people that you can tap into that you don't work with, like on a day-to-day basis, that you can tap into for knowledge, advice, for opinions, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And constantly just pushing yourself to the next level.
Yeah, the board of advisors, I mean, I think it was Napoleon Hill that talked about this, that you can, and I could be wrong who did it, but, you know, he talks about the fact of you have a board of advisors, but they can be anybody either living or dead. And they can be celebrities or they can be like your dad. But have a board of advisors you can go to and have conversations with up in your head, you know, because you know how they would respond to, you know, a question you'd pose to them, and go to them and talk with them on a nightly basis about whatever's bothering you. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, it's one of those things. If you want to talk to Lincoln about, you know, civil rights, or if you want to go talk to Elon Musk about being an innovator, or if you want to go talk to your dad about just being a good father, you know, just pull from that advisory board and always try to be pushing yourself to that next level.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, so let's dive into some current topics here. And one topic that is going around is the removal of the Costa-Hawkins Act of 1995. Are you guys familiar with the Costa-Hawkins Act?
Yeah.
Greg?
No.
Okay, so the Costa-Hawkins Act basically prevents, just to summarize it quickly, it prevents rent control from applying to anything past 1995. Okay. So newer buildings built after 1995 do not qualify for rent control because of this. Now, obviously, rent control is a big topic here in a lot of local cities, and there's a big push. There's actually a bill that was introduced recently this year to actually remove the Costa-Hawkins Act. So I want to get your guys' opinion on it. I know Concord has been in some talks for rent control. Lafayette, I believe, is in talks of rent control. Richmond just passed it. El Cerrito, there's a group now in El Cerrito that wants to propose rent control there. So I want to get your opinion on rent control and, you know, what this might possibly mean for our local industry.
Okay, so let's see who they're going to hate first. I guess I'll start off. So, so considering I deal with apartments all day, every day for the last almost 11 years, I've seen the good and bad side of it, right? So you can make a case one way or another. So I've heard people make cases that rent control, period, is, you know, harmful to the economy, harmful to the market, disrupts because then you have people milking it when they shouldn't, things like that. And then you have the other side where people say, no, you need it because, well, justified, hey, if you move in and you're a teacher making $60K into $1,000 a month apartment, sure, no problem. But if rent's jumping by, like they were here, 10, 15, 20%, and after 3-4 years, your rent goes from $1,000 to $1,100 to $1,250 to $1,500, and all of a sudden it's $2,000. Well, your salary is still $60,000, $65,000 if you're lucky. You're gone, you know, into a place that you were able to sit comfortably. I think a lot of things always get pulled one way or another. Rent control's one. The intent is good, but I don't agree with all parts of it. So, for example, I know people, and this is an example of where it goes wrong. I know people that they live in Soma in a 3-4 bedroom. They've lived there since the 80s, and they pay $1,100 a month in a 4-bedroom, a block or two away from Instagram and Twitter and Yahoo, and they can afford it. And in fact, everyone in their family over the age of 25, 30 owns a home outside of San Francisco. That's not the intent of rent control, right? The intent of rent control is to help people. But when you only go up by CPI, you know, it starts to hurt. When you start seeing those people that are, and I'm not talking about the elderly people or the people that are on, you know, Social Security, because those are typically protected tenants, things like that, the people that can't work. But when you have the people that are, you know, paying $800 for a 3-bedroom in San Francisco and downtown, like, come on, like that starts to go from being rent control to almost like a giveaway, for lack of a better expression. And I don't think that helps anybody in any sense. And you can make multiple different arguments. But I have seen rent control help. Like, I know people, personal friends of mine, that they move into a place and it's in downtown Oakland, Lake Merritt, $1,500 for a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. Now the rent's $1,000, $1,300 more, but they're still relatively okay because the rent still goes up 3% a year or so. But they're okay because that's kind of what they signed up for. But once you start getting past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, a couple decades, and it's $1,500 when a market is, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, well then, you know, and I've heard landlords make this case because I work with them. The landlord's incentivized to not do anything to that building or to that unit because why am I going to spend money on my building to make it nicer, to make it prettier? I'm just going to let it run down, not even in the hopes that the tenant leaves, but it doesn't make sense. Like, I can't go out and spend $30,000 on a new roof. I can't go out and spend, you know, 15, 20 grand to make the elevators or fix the stairs and do all this stuff other than the bare minimum because I'm going to start losing money. Like, if I'm only making X amount of dollars per year, you want me to wipe out all my income after paying my mortgage and then some just to make something better when there's nothing back. I mean, these people that are buying these buildings, they're investors. It's a simple math equation for them. It's not about what they like or don't like. Most of the times they don't even care who the tenants are. They're intended to be disconnected because if they start liking a tenant, you know, oh, well then I feel bad for this one. What about the tenant you don't like, but it's more responsible with their bills? You know, you start getting into that whole thing. So that's why most people have property managers, because they don't want to be connected to their tenants. They want to make it a pure financial decision. I don't care about your personal life kind of thing.
Keep it neutral.
Keep it neutral, you know. And then you get a lot of property managers that do own small buildings. I have a client like this. Client of mine owns a building. They had 8 or 9 units in there. They were charging market rents for the new tenants, but then there was a few tenants that they charged lower than market, and they didn't raise their rents because they were there for so long. And this is in Richmond before rent control passed. They were only charging them $1,200, $1,300 when the new tenants were coming in paying $2,000. And they didn't want to raise it because, like, oh, I know this tenant. I've met her. She's a lady. She's got a family, things like that. Husband got cancer. Bills started piling up. They went to go raise the rents from $1,200, $1,300 to like $1,500, $1,600. So it's still not even at market. And rent control passed and said, hey, you have to roll this back to the $1,200, $1,300 number. The tenant was starting to complain and say, hey, are you going to lower my rent? Are you going to lower my rent? Are you going to lower my rent? Well, hey, my husband was sick. I have bills I need to catch up and pay on. The tenant that she, you know, was sincere to and cared about doesn't care about her situation. And that was one of the things that I told my clients, like, this is why you get a manager and be quiet and move away. Let the manager get, like, who cares about your feelings? Because you cared about them. And sure, maybe the other people and other tenants would have cared about you, but now it's their money versus your money. They're going to put themselves over you.
That's so true. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many people come to me because they feel they've gotten too attached to the tenants. And they want that. They want the
in the middle.
Separation.
Just keep everything fair on a financial basis. I don't want to take all personal stuff out, and it sucks because that's the way this economy is, especially in the Bay Area where it's kind of ruthless and cutthroat. But you have to be if you're really, really going to be fair. And if you know you make it so, and again, you can make an argument for and against. And I see how some places rent control does make sense, but I think sometimes it's too restrictive, and it's too, you know, again. If you're living in Berkeley and you've been there 30 years, you don't have the quote unquote right to live in Berkeley just because you've been there 30 years when there's other people who want to. There's no, you don't have a birthright to live in a certain city, in my opinion, or birthright to live in a certain building. Like, you don't own it. We have property rights in this country. That's the way it is. But there should be some fairness. But if you're paying, you know, $700 for a 2-bedroom, you're the UC Berkeley and you're subletting it, or you own other property, like, that's not right. You know what I mean? And it sucks because you're in any economic thing, you know, you hear, you know, people say this about welfare and people say this about this and that. There's always going to be that small percentage of people that kind of make it look bad on everyone else. And that's the thing that sucks is it's a balancing act.
Or the people with rent control units and they put it on Airbnb.
Yeah, like subletting. That's what I meant. Like subletting it, like, you know, hey, I'm, you know, living in Berkeley, an example, and I'm paying $800 and I've been paying it for 2 decades. I'm going to sublease it out and make $500 a day. Like, that's not right. No, you know, and if you're smart, a landlord should have a lease saying you can't do that, otherwise you're gone. And there are landlords that do this in San Francisco. There's articles about people getting caught doing it and they get evicted, because that's not I don't think that's the intent. And you're always going to have those handful of people that ruin it for the others. You know what I mean? And the same thing, you're going to have landlords that milk the system and ruin it for other landlords to make them look bad. And unfortunately, you can't balance it out. I mean, you're going to have a law book that's 1 million pages and changes every day, because there's always going to be a new loophole or something. But
I think the end solution would be something in the middle where everyone's kind of happy, everyone agrees, and okay, we kind of get this. And
well, I mean, their income has come up as well. I mean, it's not they're making $2 minimum wage anymore. San Francisco is what, $15 or $18 minimum wage, whatever it is. So I mean, that does need to play a factor into it, in my opinion. If you're making more money, yeah, you were paying $800, 2 decades ago. That was fair market rent. Well, as your income climbs, maybe we'll tail it back at a certain percentage, but you need to come up. You've got to pay your part. Right. You just cannot have a free ride.
Right.
It'd be nice to see a proposal where there's an income limit based on for your rent control, because I also know
that's basically like HUD control. That's basically HUD. HUD basically does that.
Yeah. So, and then there should also be maybe every 10 years maybe a readjustment of
I was gonna say something like that.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you also have to keep the landlords in check. Like, I've heard of stories, and actually San Francisco is actually pretty good about keeping point on this when it's brought to their attention. You'll have a person saying, oh, hey, you're staying in a 1-bedroom, you can only stay in there, but then maybe they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they start staying in there, and then, all of a sudden you're in a relationship, you got to go, and here's your reason to get evicted, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, that's not right either. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, again, on the landlord side, or like the landlord won't fix the problems in a timely manner. Mark and you and I've talked about this. The tenant isn't just a paycheck, right? Like, you do have to take care of them. Hey, if they call, they're your customer, your client. If they have a problem, and it's a legitimate problem, like, hey, my, sink is busted. Okay, let me work and try to get that as soon as I can. It might be a day or two, but I'll work on it as fast as I can. But if you're a landlord and not fixing it for 10 days, if it's intentional, well, obviously that's a problem. If it's unintentional, you should probably just not be a landlord. You should just get a manager. So you have both sides of the thing, and I see both arguments, but unfortunately everyone's so busy yelling at each other, they miss that big chunk of, hey guys, here's what's kind of fair. I don't think the family of 4 paying $1,100 in Soma with the world's most outdated thing, that 3 of the 4 relatives should all own properties. You know what I mean? It's like, rent control is not made for you. You don't have a right to live in there forever, especially if you own 3 properties in Daly City and 1 in the East Bay. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not.
Well, what about passing once you become a property owner outside of the area, then your rent goes back up to market value.
How do you look at that? People get LLCs. You could be a percentage owner under 49%. There's so many loopholes. Even with Berkeley and Oakland with rent control, there's so many ways to get around it. You could have an investor have another person just own part of the thing, and then boom, they're off rent control. I mean, there's so many loopholes, and you can just keep writing new rules, but then people just come up with new ways to milk the loopholes.
That's when you want to throat punch people.
So problem is just there's not enough housing, period. Build taller, build more. Yeah, you're gonna have some more shadows, but yeah, when you have an influx of a couple 100,000 people in a decade, and you only build a fraction of that, yeah, you need more houses, more condos, more apartments, and more more of everything.
Yeah.
So people are gonna move here no matter what. It's just a matter of, are they living on their own in a 1-bedroom or in a 2-bedroom with 1 or 2 roommates? Or do you have, like I have some friends, you have 6 people in a 2-bedroom in Berkeley and San Francisco, because everyone's rent is $400, and hey, we get to travel a couple months a year anyway. Screw it,
Yeah.
And talk about getting in your personal space.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch to a different topic here on marketing. Now, many realtors will market the actual property when they list something for sale, but what about marketing the actual neighborhood itself? So I want to get both, and Greg, we can start with you. And do you market the neighborhood, and if so, how?
So yeah, I do. One of the things we're doing now is that we're actually starting to create a personality around the property itself. We're not talking about it's a 4-bed, 2-bath, a third of an acre, 2,500 square feet, anything like that. We're going and we're talking to the homeowners. We're getting intimate stories, and if the homeowners are comfortable enough, we're actually having them go on camera and talk about their favorite Christmas, when their grandbaby was born, when they brought their first child home, when they had the crazy birthday party where the pony ran wild throughout the neighborhood. Stuff like that, to give it a personality to it. There's a great site called neighborhoodscout.com, and what you can do is you go into Neighborhood Scout, and you can type in a zip code, and then within that master zip code, there's going to be submarkets within that zip code. scroll down on it, figure out exactly where that property is, click on that zip code, and it'll pull up notable and unique places, people, ethnicity, ancestry, languages, how people get to work, real estate, updates. And now this is more like a sword, not a scalpel. So it's a great conversation starter. But you can go into that neighborhood and you can talk specifically about the type of people. What do they look like? What languages do they speak? What industries are they in? Is there anything notable and unique, people or places in the area? Make that area come alive, because you can do it on two different ways. You can do it for that property, but you can also go into each zip code and in each micro market, and you can create up to three videos about each of those specific different topics, so that when you're out there and you have this on YouTube, or you do it on Facebook Live, or you do it somewhere else, you create a library of knowledge, so that if I am going to move into the Soma, or if I'm going to move into San Jose or Berkeley or the East Bay or wherever else, and I find that agent who has a huge library of information, of content, well, birds of a feather flock together. So you're going to want to go live and be around the people that are like you. No matter what skin color you are, no matter what ethnicity you are, you want to be around your own peoples. And so if you don't know anything about the marketplace, that's a phenomenal site where people can go and they can really become the content king and really market around the property. You can also go talk to the historical societies. You can look stuff up on Wikipedia, and you can find cool pieces of content about that area. I know, like in Danville and Lafayette and everything else, there was a lot of bloody wars that used to be fought over there.
Really?
Especially in Lafayette. There were some gnarly battles between the Spanish and the Indians. Along the Danville River, there are dozens of Indian burial sites, which are always a problem when you're digging around out there trying to build a house. You come across a bone, boom, everything stopped. Archaeologists come in, they carbon date the bones, they figure out who it is. If it's an Indian, you're stopped. Like when they were rebuilding the San Juan Valley High School gym, they found 3 bodies. Ended up not being, Indians, so you could keep building. But I mean, telling stories about the areas like that really makes it come alive. It's something that I've been doing a lot, and people love it. They absolutely freaking love it. So that's one storytelling. All right, that's the way our brains are built, is to take everything in through a story, and then regurgitate it back out. Because if you just tell me facts about it, that is the most boring shit ever. But if you were to give it a life, give it something interesting, give it some teeth. Now this is fun. Now we can sit around a campfire and tell a story about the property. Like, did you know that in Alamo, there's a blank lot there for a while? And when I was growing up, there was an older home there, which they eventually tore down. And the rumor was that a man came home about 2 decades ago, and he came into his house and murdered his entire family with an axe. And I'm like, that's bullshit. You're just trying to scare us kids. Well, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was talking to a guy who does all the commercial and just residential real estate for the Contra Costa County. And I said, hey, I got an idea. What is that true about that story? He's like, oh yeah, that's true. That happened. I'm like, oh shit. That's got some. Now they built a nice family park on the location, so go figure. But I mean, that has a story, right? That got your attention. Yeah. That's what I would say to do when it comes to marketing. No matter
so sell
what
axe murder houses.
Huh? Yeah, sell axe murder houses.
Make every house an axe murder house.
You could in some ways, absolutely. But just find a story about something. So that's what we're
actually
doing.
a good idea. It can make up a story for every single house.
Mm-hmm. A little playwright.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's storytelling, and then do as much as you can on Facebook Live, Periscope, Instagram Live, Snapchat. Tell the stories through that. That's where the eyeballs are going. That's where the Gen Zs. I mean, millennials are past old news. The Gen Zs are just getting out of college. The first wave of them is going to hit us like a tidal wave. These people are entitled. They want it customized. They want everything customized. They've had it customized their entire life. Their social media, their sneakers, their clothes, everything. So is their jobs, and so is their outlook on real estate. So if you customize the experience into buying a property, they're going to resonate with it.
Okay. And where do you see Gen Z at right now?
They're just going to be generating. They're going to be coming out of college. They are viewing Instagram and Snapchat as the 2 most valuable social media platforms. They're going to graduate and be shoved into Facebook, because Facebook is the most valuable platform for business at this point. Now, I struggle with Snapchat. I struggle with Instagram because I'm not a photographer. But I am trying, as Gary Vee always says, like, dude, who gives a shit what you think and what you like? Get involved in everything. Become a student of everything that you're trying to market. And because he went heavy on Vine. Vine completely failed.
Yep.
But all that work When as soon as
Still made some
Instagram
famous
stories,
people on it though.
exactly. As soon as Instagram stories came out,
It was over.
bam,
It taught him how to get the attention on Instagram.
Exactly.
Because Vine failed.
because Vine failed. So
Yeah.
be a student and just create stories in every way, shape, or form you can. You could easily do it for commercial, very easily. I mean, talk about the history, the stories, the back structure.
You know,
of the-
most
of the
people, we
building.
tell stories, we do it different. People don't care, you know, I mean, if there's, you know, axe murderers in the neighborhood, they'll care because that's a crime issue, but, you know, people aren't going to move in. But commercials, it's a lot more simple. The whole emotional aspect, and I'd say 96, 97% of people that I've dealt with, it's gone. And if they have an emotional aspect, I tell them, this isn't what you need to do. You need to go do something else. Invest
Right.
out of state where you can't be emotional at something. We tell stories. We do a lot of demographics. So what you're talking about, population, the growth, the employment, what people do, what type of people are there. There's actually something that Esri does. I'm blanking on what it's called, but it talks about the typical type of people that live there. Like if you take downtown San Francisco, they would have something called laptops and lattes. And it talks about, hey, 40% of the people fit this description. You know, they drink coffee every day from like a place like Pete's or Starbucks, or they prefer stuff that's non-chain. You know, they typically have an iPhone. They typically dress like this. They don't care about, you know, quote unquote, what's cool. They like to be, you know, original in that. And it, you know, versus if you go out to like a Midwest state, it talks about, you know, like a farmland type person. Hey, these people like to be proud that they're independent and they don't need any type of government assistance. And it talks about all these 100 or 150 different types of demographic groups that are usually found throughout the country, right? So you'll see things like that on some marketing material. But when we tell a story, we usually tell, hey, after you buy this is the story of what could be done, or this is why it's where it is. Hey, this property is performing really poorly right now, so it looks like it's an expensive buy. But honestly, even if you take it back to half of the point where it was, you know, take a hotel in Oakland, right? There was that one that was abandoned forever. Hey, we know that this hotel is making nothing now, but when, you know, whatever company was, Holiday Inn or Marriott was here, they were at 90% capacity. So even if you took it to 50% capacity, your numbers look fantastic. Anything above that is all value add. It's all additional, you know, frosting on the cake kind of thing. So we tell stories, but it's a little different. It's more from the financial point of view versus, oh, this is, you know, you might have a little bit about if it's a historical building, things like that. But most of the time, people just want to know the dollars, the cents. Again, they're investors. And the typical investor I deal with, it's a matter of, do I buy real estate or do I buy stock? Or do I buy bonds? Or do I buy muni bonds? Or do I buy this business? So for them, it's just like, where can I make the most money the fastest, you know, and the safest in some instances?
That makes
you know?
total sense. I mean, my stories are totally different than your stories.
Yeah, because people are living there, so they
live
care
different
about the
stories.
community.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, an investment property, they're going to care about the community too. They want to make sure that there's not axe murders running around.
Or
But
no one's gonna break
you
into
know,
their property and
they're
damage
more
it.
worried about where was it, where's it at now, and where's it going. So those kind of demographic trends, financial trends, both the property and the area. You know, I had a client that I sold him a building right off of east of the lake, just off of Park, and when I first started working with them back in 2010, 11, I was like, hey, don't ever invest east of the lake. Because once you go there, I know what you like and don't like. It's too risky for you. It's too much headache for you. And about 3 years after that, back in like 2013, I was like, hey, I have a deal I need to show you. And you're the first person on my list. And this is one of those guys that you make them enough money. When you call them, they listen. Showed him the property and he goes, but you said to never invest here. And I said, that was 3 years ago. This is Oakland. Things change and they're changing quicker than most expect. And we went in, we you know, walking around the units. I'll never forget this. There were 3-bedroom units in this building, and he met those 2 guys and a girl, and they said that they were paying at the time for a 3-bedroom $2,500, where they were paying $3,000 for a 1-bedroom in Soma. And 2 of the guys were app developers, and the girl, I forgot what she did. And she was like, he's like, oh, do you feel comfortable here? Like, do you feel comfortable? She's like, oh yeah, I go to the lake and I'll run around. And if there's some, you know, like Asian or Chinese people that do Tai Chi on Sunday mornings and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh, so you only go run at in the daytime? And she goes, no, I just came back at like 11 o'clock last night from running. And he looks at me and he goes, oh my God, I can never imagine. So, you know, girl in her early mid-20s by herself going to run around the lake and be totally comfortable with it, coming from San Francisco, which is a neighborhood that he knows like the back of his hand. And it was, you know, the whole story of what had changed in that 3-year time frame and where it was, and he was able to see where it was going and how quickly, you know, convinced him, and he took action and purchased the property.
So everything boils down to storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just completely different.
There's different ways of telling it.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I mean, if I was an investor, I'd want to hear the stories. I would want to understand. I want to see like a heat map and a trending of where this market is going, what kind of progression it is, what are my cash on cash returns are going to be for that. Me, dude, I want flowers and unicorns and sherbet. That's what my people want. But it just, as long as you tell the story.
I love
or
sherbet.
$500
So good.
Or $500 worth of tacos.
Yes, that is an amazing story.
Yeah.
An amazing story, and I cannot believe it works. But it's so unusual that it's perfect.
Yeah. Well, it's like the banks that were selling foreclosures. Now these are like the high end foreclosures, but you could buy it with a Mercedes.
Right. Keep the
know,
Mercedes. Give me $60,000 off
Yeah.
because it's going to lose half the value as soon as I drive it anyways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Mercedes. I'm actually selling mine right now because it's such a pain in the ass.
yeah,
God.
BMW or you get the Tesla, you have nothing to worry about anymore.
No way, man. I'm
nowadays.
going back to my Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT8. I want that. I want that
That's-
$500.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I want something that eats the ground. That's what I want.
Go test drive a Tesla.
I
Trust
am.
me.
That is my next on my list. I am going to get one of those
that-
things.
I've
0
seen
to
the
60 is
videos of the
2.9.
The P100D.
The
man.
P100D, yeah.
The SUV does 0 to 60.
Have you seen the
in
video
2.9.
of
The
it
straight-
launching in the rain?
No, but I've watched the street races with the P100D.
No, watch the P100D in the rainwater. Like, it's actively raining heavy, and the guy launches it. He puts a camera right on the outside fender.
Yeah.
And just how the tires grip the road, it's unreal.
Really?
It's unreal.
Everyone that I know in Hong Kong, Shanghai, and the Bay Area who's test driven a Tesla, or like a monster like that, they instantly, because it's all torque.
It's all
There's
torque.
there's no
drag whatsoever.
It's all torque.
Dude,
Don't get me wrong. I'll also take a Ferrari or Lamborghini, but I mean, dude, when you got a thing that you just press and it goes and you're whipped,
Dude,
I'm a car nut.
It's like a little RC car. The motors are at the
boom.
wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just
It's
gone.
trippy.
Yeah, the P100D is going to be I'm going to get my Jeep, and then I'm getting the P100D because I want a mobile iPhone that I can just drive around. But I'm waiting for the infrastructure to get a little bit stronger on the charging stations. I know they're getting better every year. I want to give it about a couple more years, and then I do want to jump into that because I do think there is something to that.
Yeah, because I do see some of the Tesla charging stations along Highway 80
Yeah.
that are completely packed. And people are waiting in line in their Teslas waiting to get a charge.
Yeah. See, I'm waiting for that to just to make that a little bit, infrastructure a little stronger.
Yeah.
Then I'll jump on board because I'm not waiting at Chevron very often for lines unless there's a gas shortage. But never mind.
And you can also get it with like a completely I don't know the term that they use, but basically the Tesla will seal you inside to where there could be a biochemical attack on this.
I don't think it's that serious, but it's like HEPA
and
filter
it won't
and all
even,
that other
yeah,
kind of
it
stuff,
won't
yeah.
even come inside
It
the
cleans
actual
the air,
chemical.
it cleans the air, and
Really?
for anyone that drives around the MacArthur Maze and knows that smell that comes out of Wasoko, and it could get rid of that if you have.
Well,
all
the
the
Tesla
windows closed.
website says that you could be attacked by biochemical
Oh, I don't know.
weapons, and it'll protect you against
The
that.
one interesting
That's
thing
a hell of a marketing tool.
I've toured the Tesla factory. We got super off topic.
Yeah,
but
we did.
I've toured the Tesla factory, and one of the coolest things was this is before they started making the SUV. Went there with a commercial group. We toured the factory. It was only like half built out. The rest of it was, still under construction. But their Model S, the car, so they do rollover ratings, right? Like crash ratings and things like that. And basically they make a dummy car, they give it to the government tests it. So when they do the rollover ratings, they don't actually, throw the car and roll it over. What they do is they compress and to see how long it takes for the A and B frames and C frames to crack or to start, failing. And they're only given a 5-star rating or whatever it is, because what happened is for the first time when they were compressing the car, the government machine had never had to go that high, and it actually broke because they couldn't put enough PSI to bend the A-frame. So
Really?
that thing's like a solid box. Like it just doesn't compress, or at least it doesn't compress more than any car the government's tested.
Interesting.
And this was a couple years ago, so maybe things have changed. But I remember the guy sitting there, and a lot of us were like, no, you're exaggerating. He goes, no, the machine had hit the highest PSI that it ever did, and it malfunctioned, it broke, whatever, something clicked on it, and it stopped working because they couldn't bend the car. So they just had to call off the test because it beat every other car that they tested. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's so
That is cool.
It is.
From a guy that made PayPal and now rockets that fly and land back down. I'm like, God, this guy's a
That's
genius.
trippy to
Yeah,
watch.
so
Have you
is
seen the
it.
videos?
Oh
on
yeah,
that?
that's way cool. Have you guys read Musk's autobiography yet?
Do you think he's going
No.
to give us 10% off now that we're all
Awesome.
talking about this?
Yeah,
'Cause,
no shit.
This is like a
10%
solid
off what?
car. I'm looking for Christmas. I'm trying to buy one. Can we get like
dude,
a discount?
25%.
Yeah.
Why are you stopping at 10, man?
A used,
You
you know,
get it worked
or just
down to 10.
Give me a free upgrade.
You can buy the original ones that were turned in for leases now for 30, 40 grand.
Really?
No, 40 grand for the 75, 60 for the good ones, and SUVs are 80, 90.
Yeah. See, I'm still doing the P190D. I'm still doing that one. The Big Bad Daddy.
But you're talking about new ones though, right?
No. The used ones are 80, 90. Used brand new ones, the SUV are like 140 with the P100D.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They're not cheap at all. Anyways, hard left we took on cars.
Yeah.
We're
No, but
guys.
it's a fun topic though.
Oh God, yeah, we could do all day on this.
And have you seen the Tesla roofs?
Yeah. They just put the first one up and they look solid, man. All the different types of roofing that they can do. I'm really looking forward to see what that's going to do to the home values. You know, is that going to spike? I'm assuming that's going to just be an absolute game changer when it comes to value because, as you guys all know, for the leases on solar, they're a pain in the ass to deal with. Is this going to be different? How is Tesla going to handle it? Solar
I think
City.
it's just going to be a dollar and cents thing. Hey, if you put on this
it's
roof, but
not
it gets
that
rid
much
of
more
this
expensive
net
either.
present value.
No, they're not.
I got a quote for. Well, I mean, you enter the
It's
square
a little.
footage
It's a
and-
little bit more money than than putting on a new. So if a new roof's 30 grand, this one's like 40, but you get some money back on
That's worth
government
it, though.
subsidies. But then you wipe out your bill. It's going to just be a net present value thing. You're
Yeah,
just going to
my
look at how
quote-
much money you save in the next 10 years, bring it back to today's dollars at a certain percentage, and be done.
Yeah, my quote came out to 60, but that like 60 grand, but that came with 2 batteries, and I think you get $15,000 tax credit right off the bat.
Oh, okay.
Because
Versus
of it.
and a
So
new
like
roof,
45.
and a new roof is probably 30-ish.
Give or take
right?
what you're putting on.
Yeah, a new
Yeah.
roof will be 30, and that 15 grand. How much does it save you over time? You know, you spend the 15 grand a day, but you save 20 grand over 10 years. That's the net present value of X. And
But you also have the wow factor as well, which plays into the whole buyers. Like, hey, I got a Tesla roof.
yeah,
Everyone's like, then they can brag to all their friends, jack up the price on our 20 grand. There you go, call it a day.
Yeah, and especially if you're off PG&E.
Oh yeah,
You know,
you're paying $100 for the PG&E. I went and toured a guy who called us over off of our $5 million home, about $7-8 million property. This thing is custom built like a fortress. You're talking about tightly fit. This thing is so tightly built. He has to have pump air into his house.
that's crazy.
But I mean, it's crazy with it. I got lost in his basement,
Nice,
a 6,500 square foot basement.
What
I
city
literally
was
got
this?
turned around in Danville,
nice.
over on the west side. But it's crazy because he has solar up. This is a 8,000 square foot house. Pays $100 a month in solar. I mean, in power, in energy.
wow.
I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Talk about just the pure savings of that
Right.
Yeah.
is impressive.
I saw a great Big Think video where they're talking about in the next 10 to 15 years, the majority of the world's power is going to be coming from solar and battery.
I hope so, man. Fossil
Well,
fuels
the
have got
thing
to
that they're
go.
trying to have, that they're having a lot of problems with, that they're trying to solve, is they're trying to make a clear or translucent type of solar
Panel.
panel. Thank you. Because you take San Francisco, if you have the new Salesforce tower or the new probably going to be called the Facebook tower, all that stuff, the roof is only quarter of a block big. It's not that big.
So
Right?
you
You're
put
going to
on
put
windows.
20 things, but if you can put an overlay of the glass, think of almost like a tint.
Yeah,
right? If
all
you
the
could put
glass windows.
you figure out which sides are going to get all the sun exposure from morning, noon, and night, and you cover that side of the building with this clear translucent solar panel 70 stories tall.
Now we're talking.
Now you start making a big difference. And they actually have the technology, but it just doesn't make sense yet. Like the numbers don't make sense for them to build it. So they're trying to figure out how to make it cheaper. And that'd
Yeah.
be something that'd be cool.
And I think like anything else, the rich start implementing it just because of the cool factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then eventually makes its way to the rest of the population.
The shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, you could cover every residential property can be covered with that now. I mean, it will change the way the power is delivered. Then it comes to covering cars. Then cover your kids, cover everything.
Well, there's an inventor in, I want to say Switzerland, that invented a road that's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
all solar panels.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can wirelessly charge your car as it's driving.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
but see,
sweet.
they have that. They could get pretty. The thing is, how do you make it
super
viable in the price?
expensive. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why do that when you could spend 1/100th of the cost and just put up a bunch of charging stations and things like that?
Because it's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it.
Or get a SRT or my car, Camaro, and just turn it on, and you just get that big giant American engine sound.
The growl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I said, man. I just want something that eats the road. I don't want to just float on it. I want to fucking eat the road.
Yeah.
I want my car to devour asphalt.
I think you're
as I
forgetting
go.
you live in the Bay Area. Our traffic's basically like LA, so you can only eat the road from like a solid, 3:30 a.m. to 5 a.m. on the weekends. Other than that, you're not eating anything.
Wait,
You're
when do you
eating
drive?
out
That's when I drive.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I want to thank you guys for coming onto the podcast here. We're out of time here, but it's been a really fun chat here. And again, thank you guys. And we're going to link up your websites, your podcasts, your information for people on the description, Facebook, YouTube, and all that good stuff.
Cool, man.
That's good.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for having me. It was a blast hanging with you guys today. Maybe we'll do it again if you guys like what we did, and we'll talk some more cars and talk shop and real estate.
Yeah, sounds
Works
good.
for me.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Cool, thanks. All right, so we got a little bit off topic at the very end, but it was a great, fun, and very informative episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to my producer, Sam Lubman, for doing an awesome job. And please like, share, comment this podcast. We're linking up the websites and contact info for both Greg and David. Make sure to check them out. And thank you again for listening to the podcast. And don't forget to subscribe. I really, really want to thank all of you for listening. It means the world to me, and I hope today's episode provides you value in your day-to-day life. I created this podcast to help showcase the many great people that live in this world and help share some knowledge that I've learned along the way in life. Again, thank you for listening. Check out our sponsors, and I'll catch you on the next episode.